The White Doe of Rylstone, or the Fate of the Nortons, Canto 6th. William Wordsworth. Why comes not Francis? From the doleful city he fled, and, in his flight, could hear the death sounds of the minster bell, that sullen stroke pronounced farewell to Marmaduke, cut off from pity. To Ambrose that, and then a knell for him, the sweet half-open flower. For all dying in 1 hour. Why comes not Francis? Thoughts of love should bear him to his sister dear with the fleet motion of a dove. Yea, like a heavenly messenger of speediest wing, should he appear. Why comes he not? For westward fast along the plain of York he passed. Reckless of what enfills or leads, unchecked he hurries on. Nor heeds the sorrow, through the villages, spread by triumphant cruelties of vengeful military force, and punishment without remorse. He marked not, heard not, as he fled all but the suffering heart was dead for him, abandoned to blank awe, to vacancy, and horror strong, and the first object which he saw, with conscious sight, as he swept along, it was the banner in his hand. He felt and made a sudden stand. He looked about like one betrayed. What hath he done? What promise made? O weak, weak moment! To what end can such a vain oblation tend, and he the bearer? Can he go carrying this instrument of woe, and find anywhere, a right to excuse him in his country's sight? No. Will not all men deem the change a downward course, perverse and strange? Here is it. But how? When? Must she, the unoffending Emily, again this piteous object see? Such conflict long did he maintain, nor liberty nor rest could gain, his own life into danger brought by this sad burden. Even that thought, exciting self-suspicion strong, swayed the brave man to his wrong. And how, unless it were the sense of all-disposing Providence, its will unquestionably shown, how has the banner clung so fast to a pal's side, an unconscious hand? Clung to the hand to which it passed without impediment? And why, but that heaven's purpose might be known, doth now no hindrance meet his eye, no intervention, to withstand fulfillment of a father's prayer breathed to a son forgiven, and blessed when all resentments were at rest, and life and death laid the heart bare? Then, like a spectre sweeping by, rushed through his mind the prophecy of utter desolation made to Emily in the yew tree shade. He sighed, submitting will and power to the stern embrace of that grasping hour. Ampersand quo. No choice is left, the deed is mine. Dead are they, dead. And I will go, and, for their sakes, come weal or woe, will lay the relic on the shrine. Ampersand quo. So forward with a steady will he went, and traversed plain and hill, and up the vale of Wharf his way pursued, and, at the dawn of day, attained a summit whence his eyes could see the tower of Bolton rise. There Francis for a moment's space made halt, but hark! A noise behind of horsemen at an eager pace. He heard, and with misgiving mind, 'tis Sir George Bose who leads the band. They come, by cruel Sussex send, who, when the Nortons from the hand of death had drunk their punishment, bethought him, angry and ashamed, how Francis, with the banner claimed as his own charge, had disappeared, by all the standers by revered. His whole bold carriage, which had quelled thus far the opposer, and repelled all censure, enterprise so bright that even bad men had vainly striven against that overcoming light, was then reviewed, and prompt word given, that to what place soever fled he should be seized, alive or dead. The troop of horse have gained the height where Francis stood in open sight. They hem him round and quo. Behold the proof, Ampersand quo. They cried, Ampersand quo. The ensign in his hand. He did not arm, he walked aloof. For why? To save his father's land. Worst traitor of them all is he, a traitor dark and cowardly. Ampersand quo. Ampersand quo. I am no traitor, Ampersand quo. Francis said, Ampersand quo. Though this unhappy freight I bear, and must not part with. But beware. Err not by hasty zeal misled, nor do a suffering spirit wrong, whose self-reproaches are too strong. Ampersand quo. At this he from the beaten road retreated towards a brake of thorn, that like a place of vantage showed. And there stood bravely, though forlorn. In self-defense with warlike brow he stood, nor we uponless was now. He from a soldier's hand had snatched a spear, and, so protected, watched the assailants, turning round and round. But from behind with treacherous wound the spearman brought him to the ground. The guardian lance, as Francis fell, dropped from him. But his other hand the banner clenched, till, from out the band, one, the most eager for the prize, rushed in. And while, oh grief to tell, a glimmering sense still left, with eyes unclosed the nobile Francis late seized it, as hunters seize their prey. But not before the warm life-blood had tinged more deeply, as it flowed, the wounds the broidered banner showed, thy fatal work, O maiden, innocent as good. Proudly the horseman bore away the standard. And where Francis lay there was he left alone, unwept, and for 2 days unnoticed slept. For at that time bewildering fear possessed the country, far and near. But, on the 3rd day, passing by one of the Norton tenantry espied the uncovered corse. The man shrunk as he recognized the face, and to the nearest homesteads ran and called the people to the place. How desolate is Rylstone Hall! This was the instant thought of all. And if the lonely lady there should be, to her they cannot bear this weight of anguish and despair. So, when upon sad thoughts had pressed thoughts sadder still, they deemed it best that, if the priest should yield assent and no one hinder their intent, then, they, for Christian pity's sake, in holy ground a grave would make. And straightway buried he should be in the churchyard of the priory. Apart, some little space, was made a grave where Francis must be laid. In no confusion or neglect this did they, but in pure respect that he was born of gentle blood, and that there was no neighborhood of kindred for him in that ground, so to the churchyard they are bound, bearing the body on a bier. And psalms they sing a holy sound that hill and vale with sadness hear. But Emily hath raised her head, and is again disquieted. She must behold so many gone, where is the solitary one? And forth from Rylstone Hall stepped she, to seek her brother forth she went, and tremblingly her course she bent toward Bolton's ruined priory. She comes, and in the vale hath heard the funeral dirge. She sees the knot of people, sees them in one spot, and darting like a wounded bird she reached the grave, and with her breast upon the ground received the rest, the consummation, the whole ruth and sorrow of this final truth.